Hey there! In today's video, we're going to be taking these two stools that I found at my local thrift store and giving them a little makeover using MudPaint and Roycycled Treasures decoupage paper in Ephemeral Burlap. So the first thing I'm going to do here is give these a little scrub down. I've already started painting on them, so I've already cleaned all the bottoms. I always start with stools and chairs on that bottom piece. That way I can make sure it got done without scuffing or messing up the top piece by flipping it over. So I always start doing that underside piece, and then now I'm cleaning these top pieces up and getting them ready for a little bit of decoupage. So after I get them all cleaned up, I've used like a pine sol solution to clean them up. I am using now just a clean wet rag that has fresh water on it that will just pull off any of that extra cleaning residue that is stuck to the surface of my stools. Okay, so once I have my stools clean and dry, I'm just gonna add a little white paint to the tops here. I like to add white paint underneath my decoupage paper because it makes your images stand out. It really gives a big pop to your images. So I'm just gonna add a coat of white paint underneath here. Sometimes I use, just whatever is light colored and open. Today I think I'm using Simply White by MudPaint, but honestly, I've used Manor White or China White or, Sky or any number of light colored paints. You're not going to see this paint when your project is complete, but it is going to enhance the image once you put your decoupage paper on. Okay, so this is the decoupage paper that I picked for these stool tops. This is actually one sheet cut in half. So both of these images come in the Ephemeral Burlap decoupage sheet. They're 21 by 29 inches, and so I'm getting two stools done out of one sheet of paper. So I'm just laying out my paper and trimming off any excess. I'm just getting a rough idea of where I want it to go. I'm not trimming my paper to fit exactly. Like, we're gonna take our paper off after we've decoupaged it on there. Any excess that is over the edge, we're gonna take off afterwards. But I'm gonna take off this edge where it's really long because it's kind of a pain in the butt to work with when you have a lot of extra paper hanging off of the end. So I'm just going to trim it up a little bit and get it a little closer to the size that I need. Okay, once I have my paper laid out on my project and my ends trimmed off, I'm just going to take a little spritzer bottle and use that with some water in it to just dampen my paper a little bit. So I'm just giving it a light mist. I'm not getting it like wet, but I am going to give it a chance to kind of stretch the fibers out in that paper. It's going to lay much flatter on my project once I've added a little water to it, and that's going to help me as I add my decoupage medium to stop and prevent any big wrinkles. Okay, my decoupage medium of choice is the matte protective clear coat from MudPaint. It makes for a great decoupage medium. It's very good for adding decoupage to your projects because it's thin enough that it goes on nice and smooth and nice and even, but it's thick enough that you can see where you've laid it down. So the first thing I always do when I'm doing any decoupage project is I do the top piece. I call this my anchor piece. So I've just flipped that top back a little bit, added some decoupage medium, and then, adhered my paper down, rubbing the top of it with my saran wrap. Then I use that end as an anchor, and I just add my decoupage medium to my project, rolling that paper back over the top of it, pulling it nice and taut at the end, and using a little piece of saran wrap to adhere that to my project. Once I have a nice strong anchor built at the top, I just work my way down my sheet of paper in sections, adding more medium, then rolling my paper back over it, pulling it taut, rubbing it down, adding more medium. Okay, once I have my paper adhered, I take that very same matte clear coat and put it right over the top right away. A lot of people will wait until the undercoat is dry and then add decoupage medium to the top, but I like to do mine right away because I want those two layers of decoupage medium to dry at the same time so that they dry sandwiching that piece of paper right between them. Once I've completed the first stool, I repeat the process on the second stool. Okay, so I have adhered my paper to the top of my stools and I've allowed that paper to completely dry. It's really important that you let the paper get all the way dry. Like if you can leave it overnight, that's great. If you can leave it for a few hours, that's fine too. But let it get dry all the way, because if you take your sanding block to the edge of your paper, before that paper is completely dry, you end up pulling the paper and it tears and it leaves terrible little marks in the edges of your paper. So the longer you can wait until that is completely dry to start sanding, the better off. I'm just using an 80 grit sanding block and I'm just going over the edges on the top of the stool at like a 45-degree angle, and you can see it's leaving that little white edge. That white edge is a break in the paper. And so it'll pull off really nicely once you have that white edge all the way through the paper along the edge of your project. And same thing, once I've completed the first stool, I repeat the same process for the second stool. Okay, once I have my edges all sanded and all my excess paper removed, I'm going to take some of the charcoal colored mud paint and finish painting up my stools. I'll touch up the edges around the paper and I'll show you some final pictures. Hey! Thanks for watching today's video. If you liked the video today, give it a thumbs up and don't forget to subscribe for more tutorials on how to use recycled decoupage paper and all the IOD products. Thanks, we'll see you in the next video.